This video is brought to you by Surfshark. Head on over to surfshark.deal/Gaijin and use the code Gaijin to get 83% off a 2-year plan of top-of-the-line VPN protection. Alright, there you are. Now let's just see if we can... Oh, crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap! Hey everyone, and welcome to the first proper episode of Yokai Hunter Rise, a spin-off of our show Yokai Hunters as we break down the real-world Japanese folklore origins of Monster Hunter's yokai-infused monsters. Starting off with the Great Izuchi.
Kamaitachi Gaijin semai kuru. Kamaitachi semei oseru. 長の鎌風北に長すでにとたった三枚おろし
Yeah, it seems like a pretty straightforward monster in design, right? I mean, it's not really that different from the other new player introductory monsters that this franchise has churned out. But here's the thing, unlike all these other new player fodder creatures, this guy, from how it looks, to how it fights, to even its environment and name, all are inspired by one of the most well-known yokai monsters out of the Koshin Etsu region of Japan, the Kamaitachi, or sickle weasel. Now I know a good number of you are probably thinking right now, well, no freaking kidding, Gim Gam. Great Izuchi itself is called the Kamaitachi Wyvern in English. Not to mention there's all the design art and interviews with the devs of the game talking about each monster's yokai influence. But see friends, this is what separates the chicken thigh smooth brains from the ultimate wrinkled chads in my book. It's easy enough for Capcom to say that the Great Izuchi and other monsters are based on yokai, but you ever wonder how or why? Or just how much real-world folklore is going into these big boys and girls and how that might actually affect the gameplay? Those are the questions that I want to answer in this spin-off series, and dude, you see the length of this video? There's way more to Izuchi's connections with Kamaitachi than just saying that it is. So to better understand just how freaking bonkers in-depth the Monhun devs went when it came to creating this thing, we need to make like Astera's ecological research team and break down the 4 key aspects of the Izuchi: appearance, behavior, environment, and name. So, hang on a second. Where did I put that? Ugh. Alright, well, I try to get my research together. Let me give a quick shout out to this video sponsor, Surfshark, a solid one-stop shop VPN that we use every day. Because let's be real here, everyone, the internet really has become a raging cesspool of hackers, Trojan, and all manner of malware. Less from stereotypical bored basement dwellers, and more from overreaching corporations trying to monitor your activity or archive and sell your search history. So, how does a VPN protect you? Well, it basically acts as a secondary anchor point for your IP address. You connect to the internet through one of Surfshark's auxiliary IP hubs, and then navigate to the internet from there, essentially hiding your real IP address from all these malignant programs. But what sets Surfshark apart from other VPNs is the dozen other quality of life services it offers. Of which two of my personal favorites being the Unlimited Devices package, which, yes, means that through just one account you can VPN protect every single one of your devices, and 2, multi-hop. VPN connecting through one location not secure enough for you? Well, through this, you can ping through multiple freaking countries to make sure your ID isn't being monitored. So if you've been wanting a bit more security, as well as a way to bypass region locking, hit my link in the description at surfshark.deal/Gaijin and use the code Gaijin to get a whopping 83% off a 2-year plan. Heck, Surfshark even said that they'll chuck in an extra 3 months for free. That's $2.21 a month, 7 cents a day, for internet security that I personally wouldn't be caught dead without. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. Okay, no more stalling for time. Grabbing some charts here, and here we go. So yeah, Great Izuchi is simple enough looking, right? You got a long, slender, fuzzy sort of raptor with thick, orangish fur, and is fully equipped with 2 overgrown sickle claws on its forearms and a massive scythe-like tail, as well as a long reptilian mouth housing retractable fangs. Now compare that to the antiquated depictions of Japanese Kamaitachi, and I don't think there's much that needs explaining here. Just freaking look at it. Though it's never been seen by human eyes, the Kamaitachi has been consistently described as a slender weasel with scythe blades for hands, feet, and more often than not, tails, with that tail blade being especially large. But that's not the only similarity. So have a look back at the Izuchi, and let's compare that to Mustela Itase, the Japanese weasel. The very same weasel that would be conflated with the Kamaitachi. Notice anything? Yeah, they both share the same kind of dark orange fur. But look even closer. See around the eyes? Both the Mustela Itase and the Izuchi have dark brown accents around their eyes. I'm telling ya, there's way more nuanced inspiration here than you think. But of course, I know there's gonna be at least a few people saying, well, then why is the Izuchi a raptor and not a weasel? Well, first of all, regardless of genus, this thing still looks and moves like a blur noodle. And second, every new getting to know you tutorial monster this game has to be a raptor. It's like a Capcom law or something. But that left the developers open to another yokai's inspiration. Remember how the Izuchi has a really wide mouth? That was inspired by the Kuchisake Onna, a stalking urban female yokai that hides its split mouth only to reveal it when it finds prey. So says the Monster Hunter Designs team in their own notes. So that's our physical analysis, but what about behavior? Well, I think I'll let the game explain that for itself. A Great Izuchi forms a herd of many smaller Izuchi and selects 2 of the group to accompany it on territory patrols. Once it spots prey or senses danger, the Great Izuchi issues commands to their fellow Izuchi and coordinates their movements. Take care that you don't get overwhelmed. Then on another screen tip, it stated that their razor-sharp tail attacks in combination with their synchronicity, making them a force to be reckoned with. Take out their leader to send the herd into disarray and pick them off easily. And sure enough, this is exactly how the Great Izuchi really gets you. The 2 smaller Izuchi start rapidly spinning their tail scythes and charge at you, while the Great Izuchi follows up by spinning its own cleaving scythe, charging forth and trying to launch the hunter to the ground as they trip and stumble over the first 2. But what does that have to do with folklore Kamaitachi? Then I say, everything! Kamaitachi have only one goal in life, to create the most impressive scars that they can on travelers. From Nagano to Niigata to Yamanashi, these heavily armed hairballs ambush humans by riding whirlwinds and other harsh gales to move at lightning speeds, then slash up their prey's legs and torsos, leaving cuts so fine they don't even bleed. That being said, each region's Kamaitachi are said to have a few unique properties. For example, in the Tohoku region, it's believed that the only way to remove the scar left by a Kamaitachi was to burn a calendar and rub the remains on the wound. And Aichus believed that the Kamaitachi were actually vampiric, drinking the blood of their prey through the wounds that they made, thus bloodless cuts. And then there's the Kamaitachi iteration of the Hida province, who believe that the Kamaitachi actually worked in 3s. One Kamaitachi to knock down their victim, 1 to cut their prey, and then a 3rd to apply a healing salve that immediately healed the wound into an impressive scar. And oh boy, don't that just sound familiar. Going back to the Great Izuchi and friends, this is an absolute shared behavior. When they attack, the smaller Izuchi spin around and around trying to knock around the player hunter, while the Great Izuchi swings its scythe tail in a whirlwind. Oh, right, did you catch that? See how all the Izuchi spin round, right round like a record? Or rather, like a whirlwind? Yeah, exactly how the Kamaitachi travel, via cyclones and strong winds. And if you think that wind association with the Izuchi is weak, dude, just look at the description of the monster parts. The Great Izuchi Pelt Plus stating, it's as smooth as a gentle breeze. Or the Great Izuchi Tail Plus that says, its edge has been honed by the wind to be razor sharp. For crying out loud, look at all the different weapons you make from Izuchi. Aside from all of them having a sickle and scythe motif, most of them are either named Wind Thief or Gale. I mean, geez, the Izuchi Hunting Horn is literally a pinwheel. And yeah, you remember that no-esque introduction of the Izuchi? Listen again real close for a single word.
Kamikaze Jijin Semai Kuru.
That right there, kamikaze. No, not kamikaze, kamikaze, literally meaning sickle wind. Yeah, I think the English localization of this game has more of a cultural translation feel to it rather than a literal translation. And finally, how about the name of the quest where you actually fight the Great Izuchi? The Swirling Gale? Yeah, beyond the shadow of a doubt, the Izuchi is themed verbatim from the Hida province Kamaitachi. Or is it? Well, let's look into the 4th factor, environment. The Great Izuchi is first encountered in the Shrine Ruins, as are most of the yokai-oriented monsters in this game. Which, yeah, go figure. Yokai are typically created through the general corruption of Shinto concepts like nature, cleanliness, and newness. Basically, the only difference between a positive kami spirit and a negative yokai spirit is that one is worshipped and their place of worship is maintained, and the other is not. And yeah, the Shrine Ruins is definitely more of the latter with its multiple decayed religious buildings, but I digress. In the second mission, you fight the Great Izuchi, jumped in the Frost Islands. You're, well, jumped in the Frost Islands. This may not seem like much of a big deal, but here's the thing. Despite the majority of Japan having their own unique flavor of Kamaitachi, the core legend of this creature came from the Japanese Alps of north/eastern Honshu, a massive mountain range over 10,000 feet high that separates the Kanto from the Kansai. Because of this, a lot of trade and travel traffic cross through this area, and this is where the natural phenomena of Kamaitachi's bloodless cuts came from. See, back in 1911, the British Medical Journal was really curious as to why people who lived or traveled the Japanese Alps ended up with seemingly random small bloodless cuts on their exposed bodies. And the answer they found in their spontaneous wound article was actually really fascinating. A form of a wound which occurs spontaneously and is frequently seen in Japan, the so-called Kamaitachi disease. It is known by meteorologists that during thunderstorms, a temporary vacuum may occur in places as a result of stray air currents. And if a part of the body comes into such a space, a tear may result from the stray air currents. It wasn't just pure circumstance of folklore that made the Kamaitachi what it was in Japanese folklore. It was, like almost all yokai, birthed from a negative natural phenomena from an exceptionally cold and windy location. Thus, it makes perfect sense that the monster hunter cousin of the Kamaitachi, the Great Izuchi, also has a habitat in the hilly frozen territory of the Frozen Islands. Finally, we have the name, Great Izuchi. So remember that list of varying flavors of regional Kamaitachi I mentioned earlier? Like that vampiric variant that drank wound blood from its prey? Well, that particular Kamaitachi had its own unique name in that region, Izuna. So let me just put this name here and then put this name right there, and yeah, I don't think I have to explain this one. So yeah, wild, right? The level of inspirational detail that went into this Monster Hunter monster is probably a lot more than you expected, compared to what we were told by the devs anyway. And yeah, there's a lot more going on with these yokai-flavored monsters than Capcom's letting on, and I intend to find every single scrap of cultural influence that I can. And considering just how many new yokai-inspired monsters that Monster Hunter Rise is throwing our way in the Hyakkyagyo, oh, I'm sorry, I mean the Hyaku New Yako, there's gonna be a lot to sort through. But hey, you wanna help decide which yokai-themed monster we cover next? Or mayhaps you wanna help make sure that we can keep making this sub-series? Well, then be sure to check out our Patreon. Or come swing by and straight up join me as we take on these new beasts and break down their culture live. That's right, I, your humble host, Little G, will finally be doing regular streaming over at twitch.tv/Gaijin Goombah. Or if you want to support me and get something cool at the same time, be sure to check out Surfshark, as we mentioned before. They've actually been sponsoring our educational content for a while now, and through folks like them and the insane levels of support given by you guys through places like Patreon and Twitch, we're able to keep making what we love. So thanks for that, everyone. But until next time, this is Little G, signing out.